excellent.
Imagine with me that you're sitting on a plane. You finally boarded and you're getting into your seat. It's been a long day of travel. You're tired. You can't wait to settle in, the plane to take off, and just to arrive at your final destination. But someone else is on that plane and they're in trouble. They're in serious trouble. Now, no one around notices or suspects anything except for one flight attendant. She's able to see and to sense what other people do not. And she notices and feels in her gut that something isn't right. And that's exactly what happened to Sheila Frederick. And what she did next would change a life forever. Today, we're going to talk about Sheila's incredible true story. And we're going to discuss how thousands of other flight attendants are being trained to have the abilities to see the things in the same way that Sheila did. Together, we're going to learn why training our teams is so important. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. I'm so honored every time that we get to do this together. Hey, if this brings value to your life, will you do me a favor? Like, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with others. This helps me add as much value to as many people as possible. Today, we're talking about training our teams. And I get it. Training teams is one of those things that just feel like a chore. Most people don't want to prepare for the process. Most people don't want to study up, get it all together. And many people don't want to sit through the training that they're about to be provided. Now, that could be onboarding new people, keeping a team up to date on changes, or just the constant reminders of all the basics. Training, as we all know it, can just be frustrating. People forget things. They get distracted. And the reality is, most of the time, our employees just don't care as much as we wish that they would. But I want to help us just remember the why. Why do we do trainings to begin with? Why do we provide it? Why do we take the time? Why do we spend the money? Why don't we put the energy into training? Well, training isn't just about handing over information. Many of us think that training is just about taking information that's been brought at the top and then passing it all the way down to the bottom. And really about checking a box to say, this is the new information and we've passed it to all the people it's been stated, so we have done our job. But really, training is about preparing people. It's about preparing them. It's about empowering them. It's about equipping them to act when it matters the most. And I mean some of the things that you don't even realize are going to take place. Sometimes those moments come when you least expect it. And that's exactly what happened to Sheila Frederick. Sheila was working as a flight attendant for Alaska Airlines on a flight from Seattle to San Francisco. And this took place back in 2011. And she noticed on the flight there was a teenage girl who was about 14, maybe 15 years old. She described her as a young girl with greasy blonde hair sitting in the window seat in aisle 10. She said the little girl's appearance was really just someone who had gone through pure hell. That's the way Sheila described her. And she said what made the situation even more odd was that she was traveling with this older gentleman, yet he was well-dressed and seemingly well put together. So Sheila wondered to herself why the girl looked so unhealthy and untaken care of when the man she's traveling with would just seem to be so put together. So Sheila, just out of her curiosity, she walked up and just tried to engage in conversation with a young lady. But quickly she noticed that the young lady's response was also odd. The young lady refused to even look at her or interact with her in any way. She wouldn't respond to any of the questions that she was asked. But instead, it was actually the man who insisted on answering all of the questions that Sheila would ask. And then as he would answer, she said that his answers were just sort of rude and they were defensive, almost like he just wanted her to go away and to go away quickly. Now, if most of us were put in Sheila's shoes, let's just think about it for just a second. Most of us would probably just ignore the situation. we probably would just check the "that's odd" box that we have in our brain. You know what I'm talking about? When you have an interaction and you go, well, that was odd, but you don't do much about it. You just go on about your business. And to be fair, Sheila was busy. She had other passengers that she had to worry about, and she had a lot of things that she herself was responsible to do. After all, she was working. And most of us would understand that. We would have understood had she just moved on with what she had to do. She could have just gotten into her pre-flight briefings, her safety demonstrations. She could have talked about the emergency equipment checks. She had to prepare and provide all the in-flight service. She had to respond to all the people who are pressing the buttons, who need something on the plane. You know, people are going to people, right? But Sheila said that she just knew in her gut that something wasn't right. She could see something. She could sense something. And she said she was determined that she was going to do something about it. Now, what she did next was brilliant. Sheila wrote a note for the girl, and she left it on the bathroom mirror. And then she went to engage conversation with the girl, and under her breath, she asked the little girl to go to the bathroom, to the very spot where she had left the note on that mirror. And the girl's response was Sheila's worst nightmare. The girl wrote back on that note with these words, "I need help." So Sheila immediately called the pilot. She told him about the situation, and when that plane landed, police were waiting at the terminal to arrest this man. See, because of Sheila and her bravery, because she had responded in a situation that no one else even sensed or could see, this girl was rescued from a nightmare. She'd been rescued from human trafficking. What a powerful, true story. And today, because of situations just like this, thousands of flight crews are trained in what to look for so that other lives can be saved, just as Sheila had done for this young girl. Today, I share this powerful story just in order for us to ask ourselves as leaders an important question. And I really want to challenge you to answer this and ask this to yourself. How do we train our teams to be just as sharp and ready as Sheila? But whatever field or work that you may be in, how well do we train our teams to be just like Sheila? Because most of us, when we approach training, we do it with dread. We do it with the intent to check a box, to say that we did it, and we move past it. Many of us, if we're honest right now as a leader, I want you to ask yourself, how much training have we omitted because we didn't want to take the time, because we didn't want to spend the investment? Is my team actually prepared for moments just like this? And I don't mean that your team may interact with someone who is traveling or finds themselves in danger, but I mean, is your team prepared to make the biggest differences in the moments where decisions need to be made? Just imagine right now if your team was as attentive to spot the little things that make the biggest differences. I mean, to be able to see all the details, the day-to-day, the interactions, and just spot those little bitty things that most people miss but would make the biggest difference. Just imagine if everyone in the middle of all of their busyness, in the middle of all of their responsibility, were able to see, were able to sense what other people couldn't. The investment you make in training your team, I want to remind you, is more important than you may think that it is. So if we want our teams to perform at the same level as Sheila, noticing the small details, being empowered to respond with confidence, and to be able to make a difference, then we have to train our team well. And in order to do that, I want to offer 4 qualities that I think should be a part of your training framework. Now, in all of our settings, in all of our environments, in all of our organizations, our training, our content, and our outcomes will all be different. We have all different scenarios that we're talking about in our environments today. But these 4 qualities that I'm going to share can be infused with whatever framework it is that you're using to train your team. So let me offer you these 4 things that I think can enhance your training. Number 1, I would encourage you to make the training real. make it real, make it relatable, make it something that can be applicable to the person who's sitting in the room right there and right in the moment. So let me just challenge you in this to set the tone. Think back to the last time that you personally sat in a class where you were being instructed. Think back to the last time that you sat in a training or just any situation where people were giving you information. I would challenge that for most of us, the number one thing that most people ask themselves internally, sitting in that moment, is this: what am I going to use this for? Or how does this apply to me? I have flashbacks to sitting in math class, algebra A, algebra B, when we sat there and we were learning all of these equations. And I just said to myself, when am I ever going to use this? How does this apply to me? And then ultimately, most of the people that you're training are sitting there going, how long is this going to last? See, if you want people to value the content that you're delivering, show them how it applies to them personally. Answer the question of how they're going to use it, because they know what they do every day, believe it or not, better than you do. You may be the manager. Yes, you may be the leader. You may be the owner. But a person who sits at that desk, a person who's on that job site, the person who is day in and day out, minute by minute, hour by hour, performing that task, they actually know it a lot better than you do. So when you're training them and you're giving them information, their brain is already placing them in their day-to-day scenario, and they're asking, how is this going to impact what I'm doing every single day with all of my time? So there really are a few, I think, impactful ways that you can help attach this information and make it real and answer that for your employees. And I think one thing to do is to use real life stories or real life scenarios. Just make it real. See, studies show that people retain 22 times more information when it's presented in the form of a story rather than just facts and figures. So if you can use real life examples and scenarios that are personal and impactful, I think people will respond more when they are moved by what you say. So think about it like presenting a story or watching a movie. In any movie, if it's a love story, you have two people who meet, they fall in love, your heart is in it with them and you're cheering them on. And then somewhere in the middle of the movie, there's this disagreement, there's this breakup, the couple splits, and now your heart is torn because you want them to experience that love story again, and you're rooting for them and you're invested in their story and your emotions are wrapped up. And then by the end, when they get back together, people are just moved, they're weeping. Come on, you've seen people watch these movies and get involved in it. Why? They're actors. It's not real. But you've tugged at their heartstrings and you've gotten them invested in the story. So when you train people, that may sound silly, but if you can connect them, if you can make it real for them, if you can move them by what it is that you are presenting, they're going to be more invested. I think another way to put this is to put it in a real life situation. So when you're providing a training, make it as real as you can. For example, firefighters, they don't just learn about fires from textbooks. They don't just sit in a room and have a PowerPoint presented to them. No, they train with live burns. They know what it feels like to walk in and feel the heat. They know what it is to put the suits on and to carry the weight. They go through the process. I was personally involved in a SWAT team training recently where I was responsible for role-playing the police officers. So I had to interact with the SWAT team, and they had the responsibility of coming after me. It was one of the most lifelike and real-life situations that I had ever been in. It was as close to real as it possibly could be, with 30 police officers, SWAT team members, coming after me with guns. See, the closer the training is to reality, the better people will perceive it, the better they will retain it, and the more value they will get from it. Now, that's different for every one of us in every situation. I know you can't take your team out and put them in a live burn, but you can, in your environment, make it as real as possible. And then number 2, reinforce the why. This is the second thing I want you to employ into your framework. I just want you in the training to reinforce why. One of the most powerful things that you can do for your team is to help them understand the why behind the what that it is that they do. See, it's just helping your team see the bigger purpose behind their daily activities. This is a principle that we talk about a lot on this podcast, the why behind the what that you do. So, for example, many of your team members, they know what it is that they do every day. They know their tasks, they know their procedures, they know the policies, they know what it is that they're going to do before they even get to work. But if you were to ask them why it is that they do it, they probably would not have a good answer. They would probably say, well, this is my job. It's what they told me to do. It's what they hired me to do. But if you can connect the dots of the why and the what, then it becomes powerful. And you need to do this in your training as well. The famous story of the NASA janitor, Richard Hall, many of you have heard this story before, but I think it illustrates this so well. Back in 1962, President Kennedy visited the NASA Space Center, and he was taking a tour of the entire facility. And while he was in the tour, he noticed a man, a janitor, with his broom, and he walked over to the man and he said, "What are you doing?" And the janitor's response, it just blew everyone's mind. The janitor said, "Well, I'm helping put a man on the moon, Mr. President." Now, the janitor didn't say, "Well, I'm sweeping the floors, or I'm cleaning, or I'm doing what I was hired to do. I'm just performing my job." No, you see, he understood why he did what he did. He understood why it was that he swept the floors every day. He understood why it was that he kept that facility in the situation that he did, the cleanliness and the being prepared for all the other things and the activities that would take place in that building. You see, he knew that his role connected to a greater mission. And when your team knows that their role is connected to the greater mission or the greater purpose, they will become more engaged, they will become more committed, and they are far more likely to take that training seriously. So give them purpose. Help them connect to the bigger picture, not just of what's in front of them of the task, but explain the why behind the what that you're training them for. It's purpose. It's giving them passion. And then number 3, use interactive training. I think this is important because this helps keep the training from being so boring. Mix it up. Use some role playing, some quizzes, hands-on exercises. These are just things that just keep it from being a chore. No one is pumped about spending 8 hours of their day watching someone just regurgitate information from a PowerPoint presentation. And if you're probably willing to be brutally honest with yourself, that's what many of our trainings actually are. It's just the regurgitation of information that we have put into a PowerPoint presentation. And the research shows that people learn more when they practice something by doing something. I think this is personally why team building exercises are so commonly used, because they're fun, they're interactive, and it's a great way to learn. So I think when you're preparing your presentation, you need to ask the question, what are we going to do that's going to make this fun? And what are we going to do that's making this interactive? So as much time and energy as you spend putting all of your information together, take as much time to go, when have we had a good time? So put something inside of it that's going to make it fun. It's a moment where we can all laugh. It's a moment where we can all connect. It's a moment where we can all discuss, where you can contribute, where you have some conversation. I mean, just make it interactive so that people can have a better time in the training. And then number 4, this is important: repeat, repeat, repeat. Repetition is the greatest tool that you have for retention. It's been said that something must be repeated on an average of 7 times before it can be remembered. So if you're saying something and you're going, they just don't seem to get it, well, the chances are you just need to say it again. And I think that's the same principle that is when you're training your team as well. You have to be able to repeat something for their retention, regardless of whatever it is that you're trying to teach. So look at it this way. When you're preparing your presentation, ask yourself, what information could we just omit from the training? So could we trim the fat? There's always some fat that could be trimmed. So if you can disregard some pieces of information that maybe just feel like fat, to allow more time for you to spend talking about the things that matter most, it's just going to enhance the retention of the important information. Emergency responders are a great illustration of this. They train for the same scenarios over and over and over. And it's just so that their responses are just second nature. They don't even have to think about it. So when the emergency takes place, it's like their body just begins to take over. Their brain doesn't have to lead them. It's just the second nature of all of the training that they've retained. Everything starts working together. The brain is firing, the body is responding, and things are just being done. There's a reason why pilots spend hours in simulators, and thankfully they do. It's simply because practicing under pressure makes all the difference when a real emergency happens. So they just spend hours doing the same exact thing, just in retention. So in repetition for retention. So help your team learn and retain through repetition. Now, there's one last thing that I want to add to all four of these qualities that I think will help bring cohesion to it all. I want to just encourage you to set a culture of participation. So in all of the training that you do, in all of the qualities that we've talked about that you will employ to make them more like Sheila, to be able to respond in the moment where it matters the most, create a culture of participation. And here's what I mean. The best training happens in an environment where people feel like they are a part of the process, not just passive participants. So think about your training environment, and I want you to think about the individual who is sitting there under your teaching. Do they feel like they are a part of this process that's happening in this room, of their team, of their organization, or do they just feel like they're a passive participant? So, for example, in workplaces where safety is a priority, like production plants and those sort of extreme environments, employees are trained to see something, say something. And this is for everyone's safety. So if an employee spots something that just doesn't seem right, or something's not operating to standard, they're encouraged to say something. So they've been empowered to make a decision, to step up, to lead something when necessary. In customer service, we all know that great employees don't just wait to be asked for help. The best employees are the ones who anticipate a need before it even happens. They're not standing around waiting on someone to address them, but they're proactive in it. They have been empowered to participate, to go and to do. Managers, the greatest managers, are not people who react to problems. The greatest managers are the ones who notice patterns before they become a problem. So when we build a culture of participation, everyone is empowered to be a part of the solution. See, you've given them an opportunity to participate and not just spectate. It makes them feel like they have something valuable to offer. And I believe this goes a long way in helping a person's desire to grow and to get better when they are empowered to feel like they have a part to play. So here's the takeaway. Training isn't just about compliance. Training isn't just about checking a box. It's not about saying that we handed down the information from the top to bottom. Training is about preparing people to recognize and respond in critical moments. We want them to see and sense what other people don't. And we will all have moments where we just need our training to kick in. We're just like those emergency responders, when everything starts firing on all cylinders, they don't have to think about it. Everything just starts taking over and leading because of the training. That's how we want our teams to respond. But the question is, are we training them well enough for when those moments matter the most? Have we been able to train them for these things to kick in second nature so that they can respond and do what other people can't? Let's be the kind of leaders who train our teams to better themselves and each other. So thanks for listening today to the Mind Your Business podcast. I hope this brought value to your life. I hope it was helpful. And if so, I want to ask you to like, subscribe, and share this with your team. Share this with someone who's going to go out and lead a team today. And I want to just remind you, this is a part of what I do. So if you need someone to come in, help lead your team, empower and equip them, I would love to work with you. But until next time, I want to encourage you to go and mind your business, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Mind Your Business podcast.